Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Welcome to Cloud Communications Alliance. We're going to stall for just a couple seconds, give everybody a chance to sign on in. But it's good to see all the Crexendo folks today. And Tom and Albert.
Great to be here, Joe.
Guys, thanks for having us, Joseph.
Okay, looks like we got a bunch. I'm going to kick it off then. Again, everybody, welcome. This is Joe Marion. I'm president of the Cloud Communications Alliance. We've got another great webinar in our series of webinars today. I'm really excited to welcome Jon Brinton from Crexendo. Jon has over 25 years experience in our industry. Jon, I believe Jon actually started with Intertel back in the late 60s. So if you want to kind of date yourselves, I think that's when Jon started. But at Crexendo today, he drives the strategy and the performance across customer experience initiatives. And Jon's going to lead us today on a discussion on how some cloud communications providers are driving the highest margins in the communications industry. And Jon's over in Phoenix right now. Jon, I believe it's like 104 degrees there today. So let's give him a very warm welcome from Phoenix. And Jon, thank you. Take it away, please.
Yep. Thanks, Joe. It's a pleasure to be here. And we won't get too deep on those origin stories because then people start asking you like who was president back when you got in this industry or something. So anyways, neither you or I probably want to have that conversation, but we appreciate it. I want to welcome everybody for joining. I am Jon Brinton, Chief Revenue Officer at Crexendo, and I'm joined today by just an all-star panel of some of our Crexendo NetSapiens platform licensees that are also amongst the fastest growing communication service providers in the industry. A little later, I'll share some information on how we kind of benchmark that, but really it's a good, just the topic today is to have a good conversation around how some of these very entrepreneurial companies have built their businesses, going to market with some unique strategies and the things that they've done. So without further ado, like I said, I have a panel of great partners that are here with us today to talk through their success and share some insights. I'm going to let them introduce themselves and tell us a little bit about themselves and their company. So Albert, I'll go ahead and turn it over to you and just tell us a little bit about yourself and about RingLogix.
Yeah, thanks, Jon. So what's up, guys? How are you? My name's Albert Diaz. I'm the CEO and founder of RingLogix. RingLogix is a white label VoIP provider that offers a suite of solutions predominantly to a reseller and large service provider audience. Been in the business for about 25 years now, believe it or not, right? I think telecom is the only thing I know. And always worked in some kind of infrastructure or wholesale game, with the last 6 years really being focused on being more of a software company as well as an infrastructure company.
All right, that's great. All right, Tom Welsh, one of the founders also of Affiliated Technology Solutions. Tom, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and your company?
Yes, I'm Tom Welsh. I'm the founder and CEO of Affiliated Technology Solutions. I started Affiliated back in the 90s, really as an MSP, as I was managing an engineering business. But we got some traction, and in the early 2000s, we started bringing phone systems into our portfolio. But a key change in my business is about 12 years ago, where based on a cold call and then a sale and then a referral and then a sale, I launched into a vertical market where we have registered trademarks now of voice for pest and voice for turf. So we are essentially the phone solution for the pest control and lawn care industries.
That's great. And I see you brought some of your victims with you behind you there today, the webinar.
Well, my little friend there, yes.
I love it. All right. And probably the first panelist, I will just out you at the beginning, Jake, that I've had join us for a webinar from their Cybertruck. So Jake Leidy, Chief Operations Officer of Spectrum VoIP, who's someplace deep in the heart of Texas today. So Jake, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about Spectrum VoIP?
Yeah, thanks, John. Yeah, Jake Leidy, I'm our Chief Operating Officer. Very fortunate. My father was a founder of our business about 18 years ago, and I don't know anything else other than telecom as well, unfortunately. So I started in high school, summer internships, jumping into this world. Um, we thought we invented hosted phone systems and cloud communications, but we didn't. But we were ignorant enough to think that for a time, and we just kept growing. So family owned and operated, based out of Dallas. Our go-to-market has always been direct outbound sales, a lot of cold calling, a lot of door knocking, and we've been horizontal to a fault, no verticalization at all. It's really just generally been commodity cost savings and fast pace outbound sales is how we got here today. So we count about 500 employees total today, about 14,000 customers, and just trying to keep our pedal down and grow fast. Challenge for me is diversifying and verticalizing. I think doing what these guys do well, but do a lot of outbound sales. So today, yeah, I'm driving all over Texas, trying to visit other vendors, multitasking.
Yeah, great. Love it. So we tried to challenge Jake to put it on our autopilot and do his part of the session from the Cybertruck that way, but you know, he didn't want to take up the challenge. So anyways, appreciate the three of
I'm
you
an employee
joining.
in the car. I'd do it for you guys if it was just me, but I can't risk other people's lives for
That's
CCA.
right. That's right. So, and we appreciate CCA sponsoring the webinar with us. How do we make the claim that the gentlemen that have all introduced themselves and already talked a little bit about their unique go-to-market are all NetSapiens platform partners, and we've independently benchmarked that our partners grow at double the rate of the industry. Recently passed the benchmark in aggregate across all of our licensees of 6 million users globally, and our panelists today are in the top tiers of growth amongst those partners. So hopefully they'll share some great insights that everyone will appreciate and can learn from. So Albert, I'm going to just kind of go to the question and answer in the panel part of this. So I'm going to start with you. RingLogix, you talked about a little bit, white label, your white label provider, that's your focus. You know, you known for empowering white label partners to scale quickly and to be able to earn some significant margins, grow their business rapidly. How have you refined your go-to-market? You mentioned the length of time you've been in the industry to be able to help your partners achieve those kind of goals.
So if we look at the go-to-market for the partners themselves, right, there's something that you have to have in any business, right? It doesn't matter what you're doing, if you're selling phone service or you're selling tires. And for me, that's confidence, right? Confidence is number one. Confidence maintains the tone in a conversation. Confidence builds authority, it builds trust. Of course, you got to know what you're doing to have confidence, right? So to have confidence, you need experience, and for experience, you need practice. And what we've identified is that just because you're in the phone space doesn't mean that you've actually been a provider. You haven't necessarily owned the entire experience before. You've never worried about making sure the network is set up. You've never worried about the installation. You've never worried about the support. So for us, our go-to-market playbook with our partners is extremely intensive training and a lot of hands-on support, more than most people would think made financial sense, right? So from the moment you come on board, we have what we call our Quick Start program, and you're going through a significant amount of very specific training where information is given to you at the pace in which you'll likely need it, right? So if I know day one, for example, the idea is to get to market very quickly and start making sales, then we're offering a lot of sales training. We're teaching you how to package and price your products, how to pitch it, how to look for verticals. I'm not so worried about teaching you how to troubleshoot a SIP ALG yet or work with a firewall, because we're not quite there, right? So what we have is a very specific program that pretty much never stops. You're constantly going through training. We're building that experience. We're giving you the 1,000 hours of experience in an accelerated kind of way so that you then have the confidence to do things right. We also offer a substantial amount of support at the beginning, meaning a lot of our partners or a lot of our competitors, they might train you, have you go do something. If you run into a problem, come back to them and they'll help you. We're the opposite, right? As you're bringing in your orders, we want to be involved from the very beginning, if you'll allow us. And what that does is that gives us the opportunity to guide you along the way, to listen to what you're doing, watch what you're doing. So our success managers do that for our partners. They stay involved. They help you activate your first deals, price them, quote them, get them closed. And what we've discovered is the faster we get you to enjoy that success, so you get that dopamine hit, right? If you did something good, the more likely you are to try to repeat it. So we try to give you that success experience as quickly as possible, and we try to get you to repeat it as quickly as possible, so you then have the confidence and the enthusiasm to run forward.
Oh, excellent. Great. Thank you. Appreciate that. And Tom, you have a different approach, and you talked about a little bit in your intro. I love that. You cold call, you made a sale, you had a referral, you repeated it. I mean, you did at some point in time to become voice for pests and really get the position you have in that vertical industry. You had to make a conscious decision to go, take that approach. What were some of the key inflection points or things that happened that said to you, hey, this is the path we're pursuing, and obviously a path you've become very successful in?
Yeah, great. As I said, it started with referrals, and for referrals got me to maybe about 8 or 10 nice size companies. But then it was a question of how can I scale this? And so the more I dove into it, my journey in the vertical market space, it really centered around the industry and finding that for all intents and purposes, these companies have to run an industry specific CRM. We don't find people in Salesforce or something like that. So I guess my first inflection point, as you call it, was to really dive in and develop relationships with these CRMs. So if I can get in there, get access, get integration ability, then that would get the ball rolling, and it did. The problem was that I was still coming out of the premise to cloud arena, and even my cloud solution was really standalone based. So I needed to find a solution that would scale for it, and so basically I found the NetSapiens solution. I put that in. Again, when you go to these CRMs and you're their friend there, you have to take all comers. It's great to have all these big, huge customers, but if they're gonna sell a company with one user, you have to provide one user. So I needed something that I could scale, and something that was versatile enough that I can handle all comers. And that was probably, my biggest um, inflection point, I guess, of my journey. From there, it was, just you know, making sure that I stayed ahead of my competition out there.
Okay, great. Thank you. And I'm going to come back to you in a minute, ask you a little bit more about that integration and what you've done, because I think that intrigues a lot of people. But Jake, you guys have taken a really a different approach, and clearly there was, knowing the background. You said your dad was the founder, knowing the background of his career prior. There was some key things that kind of set you on the path. But you talk about the fact that from that direct sales perspective, you guys have really kind of built a machine. What were some of the key things that got you on the Spectrum VoIP on the path that they are today, and kind of how did you sharpen that focus on really, turning it into, community based or a cold calling based or direct sales based business?
Yeah, I think there's some inappropriate jokes about neurodivergency in our business name. And I think that had a little bit of our success, a little bit of the recipe of our success is just never give up, and just this ridiculous, consistent effort to make it successful. I witnessed that as a child in the early days of my father starting this business. His favorite comment to make anytime he gives an explanation of our past is that he's one of the only people stupid enough to start a phone company with no money and no experience. He didn't know anything about telecom. And his background was in brokering financial transactions, equipment leasing, and he was really just a lease broker, really, before we jumped into this world. He was always very technical and nerdy, and he had a little 5-6 person business, and he wanted a phone system. And at the time, he learned about a company called Vertical Televantage that you could sign up to resell, and the resellers got a free copy of the platform, and it was a premise-based phone system. So our earliest interaction with this ecosystem was really just trying to solve a problem for a previous venture of his. But then he was already leasing those phone systems, and he started to realize I can build them and support them. That was me in high school building premise-based PBXs with big phone cards plugged into the PCI Express slot, and I barely even remember all the terminology, but that was my first iteration of this space. And so I joke that we thought we invented hosted phone systems simply because we were just moving fast, and we had to multi-tenant these boxes to get more economical, because I didn't want to build a new machine for every customer we sold. And one day we realized we could hack it and attach customers to it from another network around the city, and suddenly we were a phone company. So very humble, just scrappy origins. And I think at the end of the day, our path to success was just coming to the realization that I think all of us love this industry. We love this technology, and we're all experts in the space. I believe if we're part of this Cloud Communications Alliance, we're in the minutia of it. And it's easy to lose track of the fact that most of the world doesn't know anything about phones and phone systems, and they don't care. Most business owners, doesn't matter to them. They just need uptime and connectivity. They need their people to be able to work. And when you're selling to that population, those consumers, I think a lot of sales get missed by overcomplicating it and talking about service level agreements and features and installation processes and comparative functionality to a competitor. Just we kept it ultra simple, and we sold cost savings. We never lose on price, and we have no minimums, both on seat count or pricing. If I'm going to spend the time to hire a salesperson, train them, drive them across the state or fly them across the country, go sit down with a small business owner, I'm already invested so heavily in that opportunity. The difference between $200 a month and $150 a month is immaterial to us. And so we pretty much try to never lose on price. And I have no minimums in terms of seat count. So I take a lot of 1 and 2 and 3 seat accounts. I do believe we have today, I'm looking at V, my analyst next to me, we have about $100 a month minimum approximately, but we don't say no. And I think we solve the equation from the other side. Instead of trying to find the best ratio of a go-to-market and overhead and our commissions and that play that algorithm, we just said, hey, I'm never going to lose on price. How much volume do I have to do to become profitable? And we were able to work hard enough to achieve approximately enough scale and volume to find profitability out of a commodity cost savings play, basically.
That's great. That's interesting. Well, yeah, I always think that sometimes when people don't sell to smaller customers, a smaller customer could be the referral to your next 1,000-seat customer, a larger customer also. And one of the things clearly you guys must feel like in your platform and your operating system within your business, you have the ability to have that flexibility because of the gross margins you're able to achieve in the product, right?
It does help. Yeah, I think all of our overhead is in commissions, and the business acquisition is vast majority of our economics of scaling is new customer acquisition. That's the monster. It's the sales, commissions, and salaries and labor. Luckily, we have a very effective, great margin product behind the scenes to empower that.
Right. So, and Jake mentioned the dissonance in the name or whatever to start with, but I don't know if anybody else is registering the dissonance that he pulled into a gas station in his Cybertruck in order to join the webinar. But hey, maybe you can wash the windshield when you get done while you're there, right, Jake? So Albert, going back to you, you're kind of in a unique position with your MSP partners, and that you talked about the investment that you make in them up front, which is a big investment, right? To help them to be successful, the manpower to help them kind of, build their own watch, make it logical and repeatable for them. But also I know part of your claim to fame is, delivering margins of profitability for them and helping them grow fast. Do you have any specific pricing strategies or things that you've done in order to be able to achieve that, and how does that fit within your business philosophy?
Yeah, John, so it's a good question. So remember, because of the unique nature of our business, right, we empower nearly 1,000 service providers throughout the United States and in a few different countries, right? And these service providers, we're seen as an MSP-centric company, which we are, right? 80-20. Most of our partners are MSPs or some sort of reseller master agent. But the truth is, we have several wireless ISPs, standard ISPs, municipalities, private cable operators, CLECs that run on our infrastructure, right? So the truth is we support a lot of different people that have a lot of different models. And the key there is to have flexibility, right? And fortunately, NetSapiens is the kind of platform that gives us the flexibility we need, right, to be able to accommodate these models and to build solutions with RingOS around these models. So at the highest level, right, there's kind of like 3 things that we see. We see bundled, all-inclusive, and hybrid. So bundled can be across any vertical, whether it's MSPs or ISPs or PCOs, right? The idea of bundling the voice or your communication solutions with other products out there. And there's a plethora of reasons for it, from trying to have a higher ARPU, right, with your customer, higher average revenue per unit or average revenue per customer, to also creating this sense of it's not apples to apples always, right? So when the customer is going to compare you somewhere else, they have to kind of look at the whole solution. They can't really dissect, well, am I paying $20 per line? That guy's going to give it to me for 18, right? So to kind of fight Jake a little bit, right? The idea is to bundle so that when Jake comes around and says, I'll beat you by $2, it's a little bit harder to dissect that, right? Because Jake is going to do a really good job closing the deal. The next thing is all inclusive, right? We've seen that the nickel and diming in this industry is just out of control. And the truth of the matter is you got to have confidence in what you're doing and you got to take breakage. Remember, the house always wins in Vegas, right? That's why they're in business. So if you believe in the breakage model and you have the confidence to do this, give away everything you have. Stop trying to get those $5 upgrades or those $10 upgrades. And by the way, there's arguments against what I'm saying, but if you just bundle everything together and provide a significant value, it makes it a little bit better for the customer. And then the last thing I would say is hybrid, right? Which is in this industry, particularly in the UCaaS space and the hosted PBX space, it's very common to pitch the solution per user, right? That's pretty much what the industry has said, right? You pay 20 to 50 bucks a user, depending on the kind of seat you have, if it's call center or not. And then you may give 1 to unlimited call pass per user as the overall solution. Well, that works well for a big piece of the population, but there are some very high device count systems out there or customers where that model doesn't work quite as well. And that's where we have what we call the hybrid model. And the hybrid model, what you do is, let's say you walk into a warehouse, and just to be dramatic here, right? They might have 40 stations, but they only had 4 lines. And this person's been paying AT&T, $50 a line, $200 a month. And here you come with 20 bucks a user, 40 users, $800. And they're like, are you crazy? Why would I do that, right? I've survived 2 decades without it. I don't need it. So the idea is you come in and say, well, you know what? I can be flexible with you. Let's do this. Let's create a deal that works for both of us, right? It gives you what you need at the right price, but it covers my liability. So I will sell you the same 4 call paths that you had with AT&T at, I'll make up a number, $30 a path, $120, okay? And then I'll sell you the PBX at $10 a user. Okay, $400. So now for $520, right, you've got a hosted phone system. And the deal here is, yes, it's less than 20 bucks a user, but I'm capped at 4 lines. My liability is capped. The customer has a good solution. They can add or remove users. It's just 10 bucks more or less. And at the end of the day, if they get a busy signal, I hate to say it, great. They're going to call us up and they're going to buy another line, right? So it's a combination of those 3 pricing models, depending on the vertical or the type of industry you're in.
That's interesting. And some people in our audience might not be aware that the NetSapiens platform, which is the underlying platform for all you guys, we actually license that on a sessions, not seats model. So essentially that means simultaneous users. So what you just described, Albert, is a way that you're kind of leveraging that model in order to have something that's more attractive for a subset of your customers, right?
Yeah, I mean, breakage is a real thing. Right. And at the end of the day, the math is the math, right? When it comes to our solutions, what we offer. So as long as the math makes sense, and as long as you have some sort of guaranteed margin and perhaps variable margin that gets better and your liability is controlled, then go for it, right? The sky's the limit. And again, it's the flexibility in the licensing and really the configuration of NetSapiens that enables us to support these different models for our partners.
Cool. Great. Thank you. That's a good insight. Tom, I'm going to switch back to you a little bit. I want to go back and revisit something you said about leveraging the integrations into the CRMs, because you did literally go deep into that vertical and the verticals that you've approached. So clearly that means, though, some level of development on your part on top of the platform, I don't know, leveraging APIs or doing whatever. So tell us a little bit about that journey to how you selected and went into, that level of specialization in the pest control field.
Sure. Yeah. In the vertical market space, if you play your cards right, make the right moves, product differentiation and pricing is not really a factor too much. So yeah, my journey with these CRMs was, remember, all these CRMs compete with each other. So I sit there and have developed relationships where being a trusted entity, knowing that they all compete with each other. But in the early stages of it, I didn't have a development team. I didn't have a platform where I could really develop. So I very relied on convincing these CRM partners that yeah, you want to develop a screen pop, you want to develop this that works with me, so therefore, we can get more revenue, this and the other thing. So I had to jump through a lot of hoops to get that done. But once we put the NetSapiens solution in, things changed a lot, because I then was focused on building a development team. So then therefore I could, because again, they're all competing against each other, feature for feature, here, there. They're not as interested in, an added feature we might like. So now with the flexibility of NetSapiens, we're able to build our own integrations. There's much less that the CRM providers need to do to be part of our ecosystem, which therefore gets us up to speed and gets to selling much quicker. I have to say, as I said, with that, our price is our price. You know, we can't be in situations where people might think we charge less for one CRM partner than others. This community that we're in, very much, they know each other, they talk a lot, so we're very consistent on everything we do for pricing. So for many years, we were always, we always had something that the other ones couldn't do. Things a little bit recently with CCaaS growing, AI. We had a period of time, I think, where customers had to decide, hey, is the integrations that we're getting right now good enough compared to these other solutions? But fortunately, we've been working real hard to provide those capabilities as well. So yeah, we try to provide everything for everybody in the space, with not giving them any reason to go anywhere else.
And you're leveraging then your NetSapiens platform APIs with then your developers that are helping with this custom integration into these kind of vertical specific CRMs.
Absolutely.
And other applications that you kind of now expanded that to, as you mentioned, with the rise of kind of AI and other things.
Yeah, I mean, kind of with our popularity in the space, we've kind of become this ecosystem. So, and I said it was kind of corny one time at a show. I said this, that like AI kind of brought sexy back to the phone system, and it's really been the case where both in what we're able to accomplish on our own, but also through many partners in the area that's trying to sell to this industry, but they need my data. They need my call
Right.
recording, my call detail. They might need based on a certain disposition, many different things. So we certainly, we certainly get a lot of referrals from that way, from the ancillary community.
Great. Oh, thanks. Appreciate that. So Jake, I'm going to go back to you, because one thing Spectrum VoIP's known is for really, doing a great job of owning your customers. One of the things a lot of people in our industry struggle with is churn, things like that. You put some specific things in your bundles to help retain customers and grow them. And I was curious if you wanted to share a little bit about, some of the things that you've done at Spectrum VoIP and that to kind of create your own unique packaging around a UCaaS type of offer.
Yeah, I'd love to. I think something that I'm realizing as we have this conversation, if I put myself in the shoes of an outsider, they see our growth and our size, and they probably apply their margins out of that equation and think of really big, cool numbers. And I think that's oftentimes lost on people, that you don't get it all. And so we run a very tight net margin organization for years on end, compounding to achieve this growth rate, empowered by the margins we're getting, selling the products we are. And another key factor is that we heavily incentivize term contracts. I don't like doing month-to-month business. I don't like 1-year contracts or 2-year contracts. I don't prefer 3-year contracts. We default to a 5-year term contract, and my average at scale, I believe, is approximately 56 months or so, and that's across 300 accounts a month that we're onboarding. And so long-term commitments are mandatory with us, and that is how we're able to never lose on price. I can give that client wherever I need to be in terms of feature set and pricing, but I tell them honestly, in exchange for all this upfront investment I'm making and the collaborative onboarding and the dedicated project manager that's based out of Dallas in my office, the in-person install that we're doing free of charge for you, that's rolled into this 5-year contract. That's how I make my money. And year 4 is when I become profitable, Mr. Customer. And I think that resonates with the small business owner community. Something we touched on earlier, a couple topics, I'm kind of jumping around, but Albert mentioned momentum and the momentum of onboarding a channel partner or a white label player, and those early wins. I think that's just as important for us, except it's through a different medium. It's through the new hires. We hire a lot of young, inexperienced salespeople by dozens at a time every month, put them through very quick training and throw them to the wolves. We cut fast. We have very high intensity sales posture on those guys. But it's critical they get momentum. You got to find those early wins for people. And I think if you let them go get a deal interested and then suddenly you let it die because you wouldn't go below your minimum pricing or make an exception or figure out some courtesy seats or do whatever you have to do, like Albert said, they have 40 phones they'll never use, make the deal happen. And I think establishing early momentum on new employees is critical to that early success. And also you kind of have to choose. It's either grow fast or make a lot of money. I'm hoping to make a lot of money after we grow fast because it's hard to do both at the same time. So you have to pick your battles there. And I think sometimes ignorance is bliss. I don't know exactly what my customer acquisition cost is, but I know it's higher than everyone else's is the general sense of it. But I think the term commitments we're getting out of our clients help us play in those economics quite a bit.
Sure. And your excellent retention. Except I think in Texas, you're probably throwing them to the coyotes and not to the wolves, right? I don't know.
We have a lot of business in California and Florida these days, so we're pretty much every state in the country. We lose our shirts on some deals for sure, but I think moving fast has generally been very beneficial for us. Speaking to Tom's point, I think the buyer demographic shifts depending on your go-to-market pretty drastically. I've spent a fortune on Google pay-per-click. Over the past 6 or 7 years, I think I had some consultants surprised that our spend over the past 6 years might have been in excess of $7 or $8 million on Google, just in advertising alone. And we achieved profitable return on ad spend from that volume. But what's unique is that inbound buyer, they're educated, they're sourcing your competition, they want month to month, they don't want term contracts. They're more equipped to do the install themselves. So they might devalue some of the things we've done to make us more attractive to a small business owner that wants a turnkey solution. But we find very unique pressures on different channels. We have about 20% of our volume come from channel sales, and like other organizations are entirely built on. Different pressures there as well. Generally, you're going to get better term length, but once again, it's a more informed buyer. And if you don't have your integrations up to snuff, if you're not bringing AI to the table like everyone else is, you're going to continue to lose out on market share there. So I think every channel has a very different pressure, and we're examples of that, ironically.
Sure. Yeah, I think I love the fact that, the three of you have really taken, I see the NetSapiens platform as like an operating system for business communications. And actually, some of our licensees apply it in a residential environment as well, where the sessions, not seats model is especially attractive. But, we're an operating system. What I love about this conversation is you've each taken kind of your unique business focus, go to market, personal approach. You can hear it in the passion that you all talk about with your solutions, and leverage that to make it uniquely your own across the board. And Albert, I'm going to go back to you because I know one of the areas that you've done that specifically are the investments that you've made in to differentiate yourself in RingOS and that platform that you use to help enable your partners as well. Tell us a little bit about that.
So RingOS came from my own frustration with the industry. Right. Like I mentioned earlier, I've been in telecom. I said 25 years. I think it's been longer. Right. I started when I was 15 years old. I was in paging. Then from there, I went to cellular. And then I got into the CLEC world around 2005 with my first soft switch. Right. And every company I ever worked for in that process, okay, pretty much had the same problem. And it was they had swivel chair operations and they weren't getting their orders and build status fast enough. Right. So I held a lot of sales roles in that time span. And again, it didn't matter how much I sold. What mattered was how much was put into build status. Right. And as a sales rep, I had a sense of urgency that I felt the rest of the operational organization didn't have. Right. A billing rep might put something into build status on the 2nd of the month versus the 25th of the month. To them, it's no big deal. To me, it was a big deal because now you just made me wait another entire commission cycle. Right. In order to get that money. So as a sales rep, it was very frustrating. Why does it take so long to get my orders into build status? And I slowly started getting into the operational side of the business, and I saw how decoupled this industry was, right? Most solutions were built by engineers for engineers. And when you ask them how to do something, they say, well, flip this lever, turn this switch, hold your breath, refresh your screen, and then it works. And it's like, well, hold on a second. My customer's a doctor, a lawyer, a baker, right? They don't want to do that. My tier one people can get into that back end. It's got to be simpler. So that's where RingOS came from, right? It's seeing that orders were taking too long to get into build status, seeing that most systems were very decoupled, and the intent of RingOS is to eliminate that chaos, right? Is to eliminate the swivel chair operation. So what does it look like for most providers in this industry? They'll have a soft switch like a NetSapiens that is producing calls, and then that soft switch will produce CDRs, and then they'll have some third-party billing system maybe grab the CDRs once an hour or once a day, which is crazy to me. That's how they did it 30 years ago. I can't believe billing systems like that still work to like this way, right? And then they have to, log into their soft switch to provision some services, log into a billing engine to bill those services. By the way, your salespeople are quoting stuff. They're just making things up because us sales guys, we're the worst. We'll just sell anything at any price, any name, doesn't matter. We're trying to get the deal closed. Let support worry about that. And all of that was a disaster, right? And then when it comes to provisioning your services, you're logging into one carrier portal to buy your DIDs, another carrier portal to do your 911, your scene name, your registrations, all that stuff. So I said, this is chaos. I want to build a system that was made by salespeople for salespeople. So we actually drew out what the user experience should be like, literally from quote to payment of the invoice and everything in between. And once we drew out that experience, we then said, make the tech do this. Okay. It wasn't a tech solution that we tried to, create a product around. No, it was an experience that we created a product around. So RingOS, what it does is that it eliminates all swivel chair operations. In a single pane of glass, all of your systems are embedded into one and they're native. So you're quoting your services, and guess what? You're not quoting anything you want. You're quoting what's actually in the billing system, because the quoting system, the billing system, the provisioning system, the soft switches, they're all tightly integrated. So you're quoting what's in your billing system. You have quotes that are very service specific. So it's not like some Excel spreadsheet, 2 of this item with a quantity, but rather if it's a PBX or a trunk, everything is itemized the way you'd want to see it. That then allows you to activate the services based on the information on the quote. Once the customer accepts it, click a button and it fully provisions everything for you. From there, the billing is automatic. So anything that was on the quote will automatically apply the subscriptions, apply the minute plans, apply discounts for you. And literally within 90 seconds, you send the quote, you have it activated, and you have a live customer, right? Then when it comes to the provisioning of your services, you're not logging into a carrier portal, but on that customer, you're buying a DID, you're activating the DID. So if you kind of get what I'm going through here is, it's all about workflow automation and systems that are built from the ground up, tightly integrated, right? You'll see a lot of solutions out there where people will say it's integrated and it will demo well, but then when you go consume it, and I'm sure some of the guys on this calls that might be using some of these systems have felt it, when you go consume it, it's not quite what they sold you, and you have to still develop around it. So, again, at the end of the day, it's about eliminating double entry, eliminating human error, automating workflows, and really just making sure that you have a smooth user experience. Remember, our partners, while they are partners that sell communication services, this may or may not be their primary product, right? So in their primary product, like IT services, they're logged into their PSA like ConnectWise 10 hours a day, and that's what they're doing. They build a lot of experience, they get a lot of confidence. With a communication solution, they maybe log in once a week or 2 or 3 times a week. So it needs to respectfully be, I hate to use this word, it needs to be dummy proof, right? You need to make sure that without training, you're able to quote it, activate it, bill, support it, and then of course, know that you have a good partner to help you afterwards.
Excellent. No, it's awesome to see that investment. And obviously we're honored to be a platform that helps power and integrate with that, so that you've built basically a macro control layer for all of those different functions that are part of delivering a service experience. I can see where that makes it especially easy for a new partner to get onboarded, because they don't have to think about a lot of those different processes. You've made it part of the steps there.
And seeing this, look, NetSapiens has the architecture, lets us do it, right? If it wasn't for NetSapiens, I would have a much harder time trying to do what I do today.
Yeah, well, thank you. So Tom, one thing you talked about a little bit is, and I want to just circle back with you on, is the kind of, you talked about the integration into the different CRMs that are used in the industries that you're going after, but you also talked about, the introduction now of kind of AI and some of the other applications. And you've actually, I guess you probably get a lot of feedback from your customers. influential in what you guys are putting into your platform next? And tell us a little bit about what you've done kind of in the AI arena as well.
Yeah, my customers are very influential on what we do, and I guess AI there's a lot of strategic decision making in AI, which has gone on over the past year and a half. We started in 2024 hearing from our customers saying, "Oh, can you put summaries in your notes?" And because we're noting all these accounts. So it was kind of a scramble, Yeah, I can go to DeepGram and I can get a summary, and I don't know how it is now, but back in a year and a half ago, it wasn't very good. Then I'm getting approached by all these third-party, you know, companies out there doing analytics, and they basically want to operate phone system agnostic, right? They basically want your call data, they want your recordings, your CDR, and then you lose everything. So I was kind of at a point where, do I just want to be this ecosystem where I'm giving this to everyone else, or get deeper into it? Unfortunately, I sought and found an AI startup that was doing some business analytics, and I did my pitch and got them to focus in the vertical space with me, and we have produced just an incredible user experience in this short period of time. And so not only are we, again, staying ahead of the phone system competition and differentiating, but we're also this has been a big revenue play for us. I mean, we've increased certainly our new customer base, but looking at second quarter 24 to second quarter 25, our average revenue per customer grew 22%. So,
Wow,
you talk
that's
about that
amazing.
minimum of 100, Jake, right? And, if you sit there now, yeah, I signed somebody up for $75. Well, they want this great AI piece. Now I've more than doubled my revenue, but they want it even though they have two people answering the phone. So it's been an incredible journey, and just keeps going now as we're from post call now getting into more active bots.
So you found the customer willingness to pay for that type of service because it is adding that significant value to them. They're it's fighting the average revenue per user decline over time because customers are seeing a lot of business value in what you've
Oh,
created.
absolutely. The analytics are just incredible. I mean, again, we know how the business works, right? So we know what you should be getting out of a prospect call, a customer call, right? We know, forget about how many times somebody called your tracking number. We know how many qualified leads you got. Can track every customer, every CSR on how they're performing, what the objections were. You get into different service types, so you know where they're maybe lacking in services that they're providing. We're triggering on sentiment, on calls unresolved. I mean, it just keeps on growing more and more. And a lot of this comes from our customers saying, hey, can you do this? Can you do that?
That's cool. So Jake, AI is a hot topic. Has Spectrum VoIP done anything within the customer realm or even in the back of the house? Because you guys are managing a massive base of customers. What are there tools that you deployed or things that you guys are doing that kind of informs the way you're approaching the business today?
We're talking about it every day like everyone else. I think truthfully, if I'm introspective, I'm frustrated that we're probably behind of what you would assume where we're at, because uh, you know, at scale, it's hard to listen to a lot of customers at once, and you do what's working. And so sometimes I think it causes us to get a little flat-footed at times when the industry is getting disrupted on something new technology like this. Now, one advantage we have is that if you do enough business with enough people, sometimes certain businesses just blow up and they get big. And if they trust you and you stay humble, they take you along for the ride. So we have one Fortune 500 client. It's one of the largest trash companies in the world. They have about 6,000 seats with us, much higher than our average, obviously. And what's fascinating with that account is we have a whole team assigned to it now, VP level, dedicated assets, and the revenue growth from it is explosive. They're asking us to do and build things we've never ever imagined. It's taking us into messaging, SMS, as well as custom analytics and our own localized large language model that we're building out for them. We're using DeepGram in the short term, but in the very near future, we plan to have our own cluster, our own hardware running a localized LLM doing sentiment analysis for that client. And we plan to extend that to the rest of our user base. So what's fun is letting those power users, those enterprise accounts, if you have them, show you the future of where you should be developing and kind of building out your capabilities. And that's really led us both on messaging, it's led us on some of the analytics and what we're focused on to bring AI to the table. And like Tom said, that can't be underemphasized. I know a lot of people around the world over the past several years have been wondering how AI is going to impact themselves, their business, their employment, their profitability, whatever it is. I think it shouldn't be understated how advantageous all of our positions are as service providers. When you control the origination of the data that is needed to train these models or get value out of these products, it puts you in an incredibly powerful position, I think, for us as service operators. Because not only are those clients going to look to you and be willing to invest and buy more from where the data is originated from, but I'm also trying to educate myself and look in the future on how, at scale, as all of us start to process a certain amount of minutes and recordings, how that can be leveraged in itself. If you go the path of Zoom and leverage that data for other consumption. But
Sure.
yeah, that's exciting to us. It's something that I think at scale we're probably behind on the ground floor, but in niche situations we're hopefully investing deeply here, and it's difficult. You have to invest a lot of resources to do this well. Some of it's becoming table stakes, like sentiment analysis and post-call summaries. Others, like we see with other partners in this ecosystem, I know Jack Behar's got some wild stuff cooking for years now around automotive, and the things you're able to do in real time is fascinating. Like if someone curses, suddenly that boss is getting a notification on a cell phone to coach Barger join into a troubled conversation, or monitor it in real time via transcription. These things are here now. So that's exciting to see what some of these other guys are building.
Yeah, that's cool. And for our audience, for those that might not be as familiar with the NetSapiens community, what a couple of the answers have really talked about is we've spent a fair amount of time over the last 3 years or so building a large ecosystem program to where, if you think about that model we talked about with the operating system as being the platform, and then the different vendors and verticals that you can plug in within the ecosystem. We even have a comment here that I'll reference in a second that, to where there are vendors that are things that can be added on that are plug and play to leverage our APIs and work with, and that may meet the need of many of your customers. And we have a ton of companies that have joined that ecosystem. And then if you don't find the solution maybe at the right time in the right place in that ecosystem, our robust APIs let our partners kind of leverage and do some of the things that Tom and Albert and Jake have talked about. But the starter level is there is this large ecosystem of partners. We interact with them throughout the year. They spend time with our licensees at our user group meeting that's coming up. And I referenced that. That's in October for our partners, where we get together once a year and kind of see these guys share best practices together and spend a lot of time together sharing like they have been today, because we actually have a question that's referencing VCons, and it's kind of this what we would call post-call data or in-call data, and leveraging that. This year at our user group meeting, we're actually going to have our first VCon workshop after having some VCon content last year. And for some of you, if that's like too much geek speak for you, just understand that's that's an area of that kind of customer data and analytics, that a way of presenting that in a way that's consumable for end customers. So that's one of the things I love about our community is, we're kind of building that vendor ecosystem. We've got a great engaged partners like we've talked with on today's webinar, and they learn from each other and they share best practices like we've talked about here. So we're running short on time. So I would just say, if you're in the audience, you have any questions, feel free to type them in the chat icon on the screen, and we'll get back to them a little bit more. I just want to go around the team and kind of, we talked a little bit about what the NetSapiens platform. This has been more about you than us today, but I would ask you for the little bit of feedback on what the NetSapiens platform has played into your success. And then also, I think with all of you, we've established that we actually, and for most of our partners, it's very rare that somebody, even with new partners that are onboarding today, it's very rare that we're not anybody's starter UCaaS platform. They've generally gone another route, done something else first, had challenges at scale. So maybe we'll just go around the horn real quick. Tom, I'll talk to you first, but what are some of the key reasons you chose NetSapiens, or how are we helping you to empower your success?
Great. Yeah, I touched on a little bit before, but basically my industry, fortunately, is still very voice heavy. There, mouse goes through your kitchen, you're going to pick up the phone and you're going to call. So that's all good for us. That's not going to go away. But I simply needed something that I can control. Okay, because these calls, I mean, at 70, 80 bucks a click for a lead, their acquisition cost is extremely high. Their phones just better work. It's seasonal, so being able to control my updates, my upgrades are big for me. And scale. I guess the biggest thing though I want to pitch is on the versatility. Real quick example, only because it's so fresh to me, is if the audience could think of maybe one of the biggest well-known names out there in the pest control industry, have many brands, a brand that operates in pretty much the entire Southeast, is not happy with a feature. Okay. And there's another way to do it, but they're not interested in going the other way. And to be able to reach out to a partner and find out that you can have a patch within a week and then load that patch on over the holiday weekend, so we make sure everything's nice and stable, and have a very, very happy customer come Monday, where it's acting the way they want, is, I think, pretty unique, and now sets us all up to be able to bring in many more brands under this customer. So that's my most recent pitch for the tremendous partnership that I know I have with NetSapiens.
Great. Thanks, Tom. I appreciate that. Albert, how about you?
Yeah, so I mean, I think there's probably three main things that NetSapiens brings to the table for us, right? The first one's going to be the native geo architecture. There's not a lot of solutions in the market that had that, and the fact that this had a geo architecture from factory that we could just consume and didn't have to engineer and support in-house was kind of a very big deal for us. And not just because we're on this call, but it works very well, right? It's no secret. We operate a plethora of platforms, and the geo architecture here is, I think, in my opinion, one of the best. The next thing is going to be the API, right? So the RingOS experience is a very immersive experience. It's all RingOS, and everything that we offer our community is inside of RingOS, including NetSapiens, right? It's not a standalone product that you log in individually. So having the APIs that really allow us to do all the, what we call in this industry, the MACDs, right? The moves, the adds, the changes, the deletes, all the provisioning, all of that is done in automated workflows. So having the APIs that ensure that we can provision services, keep those services in tune with the billing system, make sure that calls are not being made if the customer is disconnected, make sure that services are being suspended and reinstated if somebody pays in the middle of the night, right? The lack of human operations in the day-to-day management of your system, that's big for us. And then I think the last thing is probably just the flexibility that the platform brings, right? The way the platform is designed, the guys here know it, right? There is kind of like a general configuration, but you configure everything yourself, right? You put the system parameters and properties that you need for your use case. You put the UI configs that you need for use case. You brand it to your use case. And that flexibility that doesn't force you into a specific business model, but instead kind of allows you to be creative and do things your own way and kind of provision them through the API. I would say it's that combination of features that really convinced us this was the right solution for what we wanted to do.
Great. Thank you very much. And then Jake?
Yeah, we operate multiple platforms as well. And I can tell you honestly that I think a combination of the sessions model instead of seat-based pricing, that's critical for us, especially when we're being competitive on cost. And like Albert and Tom have mentioned, it's the ecosystem for me. I think anything that you're not getting out of the box, that you're not able to be able to develop yourself or find a solution for, I've I've kicked the can because I know I beat John up every year anytime I got to buy more seats, and that's often. That I do my due diligence, and I have not found another community so far after years of searching that has this level of success and capability and open sharing, and then also a leadership group with John and his peers that truly cultivate, I think, a group of people, like-minded individuals that can benefit from sharing and building together. It's a very unique circumstance where my best friends these days are my leaders of the competitors I fight against, like Albert and Tom here, and some other gentlemen that are part of these different organizations. And all of us, I think, greatly value the work that the NetSapiens Crexendo team has done to curate a real community. And that sounds cheesy, and it sounds like I'm being paid to do it. I pay John way too much money to be saying this for free, or for fun. And yeah, it's just it's honestly unique. It's very valuable. And whether it's like Tom said, maybe it's just a conversation, or other times we're licensing software from each other or giving it and trading it. So it's been very advantageous for us. And then finally, it's stability. Our previous platforms, we grew fast. I have 250,000 users approximately active today, endpoints, and we're rock solid on NetSapiens for almost 98% of that user base. So stability is everything for us, and that's been a given here for the past 8 years. So that's a critical feature for us, obviously.
No, that's great. Thanks, Jake. Appreciate it. And that's one thing I love about our community, because I do see people that are willing to share help. We participate in a lot of events every year. We have our user group meeting like we talked about in October, and it's always great to kind of get together with them and really see them share best practices. In aggregate, we have, over 6 million users, and it's growing substantially every month. But if you take a look at the globe, that's our aggregate share is still a small part of the total of the market, but we're just thrilled to see our partners continue to grow at double the rate of the market. So, I think I look, if anybody's got any last question, you can post it quickly, but I think we covered most of them in the conversation today. I really want to thank Tom Welsh from ATS, and Albert Diaz from RingLogix, and Jake Leidy from Spectrum VoIP for joining me today, and thank CCA for sponsoring the session with us. And I think with that, Joe, without any other questions I see popping up that haven't been addressed in the conversation, I'm going to turn it back to you.
Great. Well, thank you all for joining us. We're now, by the way, what I found most interesting really was the flexibility that NetSapiens offers your customers. I think that's something that everybody should be drilling down on, and your session pricing, versus your per seat pricing. I think those are two unique offerings that NetSapiens offers, and so I can see why people are flocking to NetSapiens. But so thank you guys for putting this on today. We really appreciate it. We have a couple CCA events that we're working on right now. Cloud Connections going to be in Delray Beach, Florida in January of 2026. And at the end of this year in October, we're going to do our Cloud Financial Summit. This year is going to be in Washington, D.C. Take a look at the Cloud Communications website and get more information on it. I'm sure we'll see all you guys there. And thanks for sharing today, everybody. We really appreciate it. That's what CCA is all about, sharing this kind of information.
Yep. Thanks, Joe. Thanks, panel. Appreciate y'all. Everybody have a great day.
Thanks, John. Thanks, Joe.
Have a good day.